So grab a cuppa and let's hit the couch. Okay, folks, there is a reason why it is August and I'm starting to talk about the spring show in April, and that is because it is time to start planning and buying your bulbs if you want to enter with me. As I said, I want this to be an invite to you guys. I want you to get to the end of today's video and be really excited and enthused by the idea of growing daffodils with me for the spring show. And I want to get a group of us together, as many as possible, to actually enter them on that weekend at the start of April. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you the timeline from starting now of how it's all going to work, all about my experience. I'm going to give you all my top secret tips and tell you what you need to do. But more importantly, I want to get rid of this idea that you're doing it as a competition and that you have to compete against other people, because that is so not what it's about. That's just one wee thing you can do if you want. So this is it, folks. It's the Royal Caledonian Horticultural Society, or you'll hear me call it the Caley, because that's kind of what we call it. But it's the spring show and it's the 4th and 5th of April, but we're starting now. So, who's in?
Count me in.
Oh, you can count me in.
Excellent then. So as you guys can see, I've already got some fun YouTubers joining me on this one. We've got Sandra at About the Garden and Mags from My Country Garden, and they're growing along and they're going to enter with me. So we've already got the gang started.
Oh, hi! I'm Sandra from About the Garden here on YouTube. And when I'm not busy working, you'll find me here, About the Garden. And when it comes to what I like in the garden, I like a relaxed vibe. When Eli and Kate got in touch about the spring show, I was so excited. And when I started to realise what this would all entail, I have to admit I got a wee bit nervous. But I know I can rely on Eli and Kate for moral support. Hopefully, I can produce something a bit better than this.
Hello, I'm Mags and I have a YouTube channel called My Country Garden. And in that channel, I chronicle all the things I get involved with in my garden in East Central Scotland. I've grown fruit, veg and flowers for many, many years. I haven't, though, ever shown fruit, veg or flowers. So I'm very excited to be getting involved in this collaboration with Eli and Kate and some other Scottish YouTubers. Yeah, I can't wait to embrace this challenge of growing daffodils for the show.
So we've already got the gang started. Right, let me get going with this then. Let me tell you about this spring show and what it's all about and my experiences of it. Because some of you guys probably came along with me last year on the journey when I was brand new and utterly terrified and I went on this journey. Let's just get this out of the way right now because you can see this. So clearly I actually did quite well at the competition side of it. And I'm sitting here telling you not to think about that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to get this out of the way because when you enter, it's actually this that's the big deal, okay? These look fab and shiny, but this. Okay, so let's go through it in order. These are the cards with the details on them, and if you place, you'll get a sticker on it that says first, second or third. Okay, so you can see I've got quite a lot here. Because I had quite a lot of these, that's why I came home with a trophy. Because the trophy is for the person who gets the most of these in any of the sections or classes or divisions. Depending on your competition, it'll be called different things. And I got this because I had the most, okay? This is something different, and it's actually even more special than getting this. These are given to the best in the show. So I got mine for the best bloom of the intermediate section. There is one for the best bloom of the entire show. Yeah, and these are really, really sought after because there is only the one. So I'm really, really, really proud that I got this. Okay. So that's the competition side of it, okay? But here's the truth. Most of the people that enter aren't entering for that. They're entering for the fun of growing a specific thing in a specific way for a specific time. They're entering for the camaraderie because the social side of it, of everyone growing together, is amazing, and everyone is so friendly and so supportive. I had like previous champions of multiple shows that have multiple trophies and things helping me out with all the little details of how to stage and how to make things look best. They took their time away from setting their stuff up to come and show me how to do things properly. It is a fab experience. So please don't let the competition thing put you off and be it. It's not about that. It's just a fab thing to do. Okay? So that's it, right? Here's the details then. I said I was going to give you the timeline because obviously, if you're going to join in with me, you're going to want to know a bit more about it. And also, it lets me show you some of the footage from last year, which is quite cool. So it's August then, and we're starting now. And the reason for that is spring bulbs. You plant your spring bulbs in winter, well, end of autumn, early winter time, and they grow through winter, okay? And then they come up in spring. So obviously for the spring show, we're going to be planting our bulbs this winter. So I'm starting now to tell you guys, you need to start thinking about things and buying your bulbs now. Okay, and we'll get into the whole choosing your bulbs thing in a second. But the reason that we're doing it now is because they sell out quite fast, and you might want particular bulbs to grow. So you want to get in there quick, okay? And I'm going to give you some details of where you can buy bulbs, all that kind of thing. But October is when we're going to get planting things, and that is the beginning of the fun, social, supportive, collaborative group thing, and there's something a bit special because you can absolutely just plant your bulbs at home and grow them at home. But if you want to, there's actually going to be a workshop at Saughton Park in Edinburgh, which is the home of the Caley. If you want to come along with me and Mags and Sandra and all of the other people who are going to be entering, and you can actually plant your bulbs there in the group, in the workshop, with all of the Caley experts on the Spring Bulb Show on hand to answer all of your questions and all that kind of stuff. How amazing is that? So that's the day we're going to plant them. There is something called a plunge that can be done. Okay, so we're going to get back to that because it's in the part about the growing. But we're just doing timeline just now. So we've planted the bulbs. Just imagine, planted. They grow away over winter. And then in February, we're going to dig them up and check them out, see what's grown. Have we got little shoots yet? And then from February to April is when we grow them, and we have to learn all about controlling them and all that kind of stuff. And then in April, what's going to happen is we're all going to go to Saughton Park on Friday, and we're going to do something called staging. We're going to set our bulbs up. We're going to make our flowers look amazing. And then on Saturday, they're going to get judged. And Saturday is when the big show starts and everyone comes to see all the flowers and there's stalls and all sorts going on, and it's brilliant, okay? So this is our timeline going on from now. So my experience of doing that last year then was utterly amazing. It was, there's no other way to describe it, just it was thrilling. It was the adrenaline, the excitement. It was the best thing to be part of. It was brilliant. Yes, there were some moments where I was a bit stressed and it was quite a lot to take in because I was new and I was learning. But having that gang growing along and all the other people entering, it was brilliant. I can tell already you're getting a bit excited, aren't you? Right, let me talk to you about the bulbs then, because you remember I said there's all the standard questions.
Are there specific kinds of bulbs that they would want you to grow, or can you choose?
Is there any particular varieties of daffodil that are better suited for showing?
This is a brilliant question then. The whole thing about you don't have to buy particular bulbs. You don't have to enter particular types of daffodil. It is up to you, okay? There are lots of suppliers that the guys that grow for show an awful lot use because they are really good quality bulbs you get, and the varieties they have tend to be the ones that you see at shows a lot, and quite often it's the ones that win a lot, probably because they're really strong varieties that are reliable when they grow, okay? But you don't have to buy from those. And I will put a list of options of all these suppliers on the fact sheet that you can download. But I said about how many different things I want. Quite a lot of these were for daffodils that I grew in the garden, not even in a plunge or anything, that I bought from Farmer Gracie. So I didn't buy them from a fancy bulb supplier. It was just some of the nice ones that I liked. Things like Tahiti, that one at first place. So yeah, so you don't have to buy fancy bulbs. You can just enter what you've got in your garden. You can use this as an excuse to buy some new bulbs. And remember, if you're going to Farmer Gracie, there's always a discount code for us. It's in the description, or I'll put it on screen for you. But remember that, okay? So you can treat this as a bit of fun and something different and go and buy fancy bulbs, or you can just enter whatever bulbs you want to enter, whatever varieties you want to enter. But they have to be entered into certain categories, and they've all been categorised for you. There's a QR code on screen. If you do your wee zappy thing with your phone, that will take you to the website, okay? If you can't do the zappy thing, there's a link in the description of the video. But I want you to go to the website and download this. It's called the schedule, okay? And this is all the info about what you can enter, because we're going to open this up, and what I'm going to get you guys to do is to go to section 4. You see if I can find it for you. There we go. Now, the reason we're going to go to section 4 is because section 4 is the beginners or the novice class, okay? And that section is only for people who have never done this before. And that's what you're going to enter. And that's what I entered last year, okay? Now, thing is, you don't just have to enter this. We're going to make this our focus. But if, like me, you had lots and lots and lots of things left over, you can enter them in all of the different categories. And that's what I did. And that's why I ended up with a ribbon and a trophy for the intermediate section. I didn't win the beginner section, but I won the intermediate section because I had so much stuff. So I just entered everywhere. And that's why we're at 4. Because here you're going to see this is the class for the novice and beginner, but inside each of these bits, it's going to tell you what to enter. And this is going to help us with choosing the bulbs, because if we go to cut blooms and bulbs in pots, so there's a hint for you, you can enter a single daffodil or multiple daffodil stems that you've cut. So you can grow these in pots, or you can grow them just in the ground in your garden, and then you can cut them and enter them in the competition. So that's the first one, cut blooms. There's also bulbs in pots. So you can actually plant your bulbs in pots, and then you can enter that whole pot as a display on its own. So there's options here. But here's the important bit. Daffodils are broken into different divisions. So the ones we're going to focus on is just the first 4. Division 1, which is a daffodil that has a really long nose, longer than its petals, okay? Really long trumpet. Division 2, it still has a long trumpet. Then there's Division 3, when it's got a really, really short little trumpet, okay? And then Division 4 are the frilly ones, the fancy ones. It's called doubles. They're the ones that have got multiple rows of petals, okay? So that's the 4 we're going to focus on. There is a lot more, and you'll read all about that in here, okay? Now, the first thing, that's my simpler explanation of what they are, how to identify them. But, again, link in the description of the video. I'm going to do a fact sheet for you guys, and you can go and you can sign up, okay? Get you to sign up and say that you're part of the group that's doing the whole grow along, and there's a fact sheet you can download, and I'm going to put all this info that I know in there to help you grow along, okay? And it's going to have details about the bulbs and a website you can go to where you can actually find out which bulbs are which division, so you can choose which flowers you want to grow. Okay then, so one of the other big questions, and it was my main questions, was this thing about controlling the growth of your daffodils.
How do we time things so that the daffodils are at peak readiness for the show?
If they do come along too quickly or too slowly, is there something that we can do to make sure they come along at the right time?
So it's about like temperature and light is the main thing. So what you can do is you can move them around as they're grown. So you could have them in your greenhouse or your polytunnel if they're a bit behind and you really want to give them lots and lots of heat and bring them on. Or if it looks like they're getting a bit too far ahead and you've still got a few weeks left, then you can move them somewhere that's cooler and shadier. And that's basically what you do. You just move them around, and that's how you control it. Now, here's a wee tip for you. I mentioned about choosing whether you want to just grow in the ground and then cut your flowers, or you want to grow in the pots. Okay, here's the thing. There is a rule, you'll see it in the schedule. If you're going to enter pots, They can't be any bigger than 3 litres, okay? So everyone is grown in the same size pot with the same amount of compost. It's the same situation, okay? To make it fair. Grown in pots also then lets you do this moving around thing, because obviously if you're grown in the ground, you can't change whether it's getting light or shade or that kind of thing. So grown in pots is actually really handy for doing that. Now, you can still then cut those blooms and enter them as cut blooms. You don't have to enter a pot just because you grew them in pots, okay? But that's the thing. I grew all of mine in pots last year and it let me move it all around and get a bit more control over the growing. So there you go. Now, I said about the plunge earlier on, I said I'd come back to it. So this is one of the things. When you plant your bulbs, if you come to the Caley workshop with us, when you're planting up, you'll be planting them in pots. And they have a plunge there that you can use if you're entering the show. And a plunge is basically like a big raised bed where you put the pots in the bottom and it's empty, there's no soil or anything in it. And you put the pots in at the bottom and then you fill the bed up with all the pots. And you can use soil or compost or sand or whatever. But the reason for that is it's mimicking planting the bulbs in the ground for their overwintering period. And it also does a thing where it presses down, it weights down on the bulbs, all that sand or soil on top, and keeps them in place and just controls it all and looks after it. And it's another way of having a controllable spot. You know where all your bulbs are. You know where you're checking on them. If need to, you can cover them if it's a crazy wet winter, anything like that. So that's all the plunge is. And then in February, we go and then dig them out the plunge. And I did that. I had a plunge. I put bulbs in the plunge at the Caley workshop, but I also had my own plunge in the garden. So what do we think then? Is it sounding like something that could be fun and doable yet? Because I'm hoping it is. Now, the other question I got that was a really, really, really good question was from Mags.
Is it better growing the daffodils over winter indoors in a polytunnel or a greenhouse, for example, so that they miss the worst of the weather and are in better condition for the show?
And you've already heard me mention about how temperature is really important and you can use it to control things. Okay, so you don't need to put your bulbs into the greenhouse or polytunnel over winter. In fact, it's probably better if you don't, because they need winter. They need that cold period. It's that thing, if you put them in the greenhouse over winter, you run that risk of them kind of it being too warm and safe and they can grow too fast and they end up being a bit floppy and leggy. But once we dig them up, then that's what I did. When I dug my bulbs up, I put them in the greenhouse for the first few weeks just to keep them kind of in a controlled environment so I could keep an eye on them. And I could like look after them and everything, make sure they were okay before I then started hardening them off and taking them outdoors. Okay, and quite a lot of people do it that way. Now, you don't need to, but it is one of those things that some people do because you will want to protect them a little bit from the worst of the weather. Maybe not necessarily the leaves and stems, but when you get flowers, you will want to protect the flowers because you don't want the wind or the rain ruining them the night before the show. Now, a lot of people who don't have greenhouses, they just prepare a little covered area in the garden where they can put things, okay? There's ways and means of doing it all, and that's part of the fun is you find out a way to make everything work for you in your garden, and you're doing things your way. So when you enter them, that's your bulbs that you grew your way, and you get to stand there and be proud. So how was that then? Sound simple enough? Sound like it could be something that could be fun, especially if there's a gang of us doing this together. Okay then guys, so I've put links to Sandra and Mag's channels in the description of the video because if you haven't already guessed, they're going to be making videos of their journey, joining in, and the three of us are going to be making lots of videos together as we go, telling you what's going on, okay? So make sure you follow them so you don't miss anything. And if you want more bulby goodness, go there. And that is my videos from last year and you can see how it all went. I'm looking forward to doing this with you guys. So go on, let me know if you're joining in. Let me know what you're going to grow, what your favourite varieties are. And I will see you on Sunday. See you folks!